All right. So my name is Thomas Crotty. I'm the engineering instructor at the Seattle Maritime Academy, and we teach people how to work on boats. That's what we do. So we have two tracks, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. We have a marine deck technology, which is primarily working on deck, which is navigation, which is cargo handling, sort of taking care of all of the above decks sort of equipment and stuff, and then marine engineering, which is below decks, which is propulsion and really just making sure all of the systems that you would expect to work on a ship actually work. So engineering and deck are the two programs that we have. So before I get too much into it, how much do you know about the maritime industry? Just so I have an idea from you guys, who I'm talking to and what I'm working with. Um, so a qualified deckhand, so in the deck program on a merchant ship, uh, what do you think that's called? Or you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and make a guess.
Oh wow, I don't know anything. I just passed by I see the Maritime Academy on the way to the store and I just want to know more, but I'm just gonna guess A.
A, an ordinary seaman. Ordinary seaman is actually the correct answer. Yeah, the um, entry level position on the deck side is an ordinary seaman, and they are well, not always ordinary, but they are the entry level. Anybody can be an ordinary seaman, and so that's the entry level position. That's correct. Uh, and then if we go, so in the engineering track on the other side, um, what do you think is the name of a qualified rated engineer on board a merchant ship? So same question, but for the engineering side.
Oh wow. I'm gonna go with A again.
That's also correct. Yeah. A qualified member of the engineering department. And these are the ratings that we're going to get you um, when you go through our program. Uh, so in order to work on a ship in the United States, um, what do you think you need to have in order to do that?
My wife is a security officer and does security for boats sometimes, so I'm just gonna say like Twit card. You need one of those.
Yes, actually, you need a TWIC card. You'll need a merchant, and you'll need a merchant mariner credential. So those are the two things that you'll be looking for. Um, and the TWIC card is one of the things that you can get. You can apply for just sort of off the street, and it's one of the requirements to get into our program. It's pretty easy to get. It's just something you need for, like you said, for security reasons. And then the merchant mariner credential is what you'll be working towards through our program. So that's sort of the other side of things. So, like I said, our program, we have sort of two programs: a marine engineering technology, where you'll get to learn how to work in the engine room, and that includes operating machinery, troubleshooting machinery, fixing it when something goes wrong. You're on a boat, you're out in the middle of the ocean, you can't call AAA and have a repairman come out and try to fix it. You have to know, have at least a basic understanding of what's going on so that you can kind of limp back to the dock. And then if you need to call a specialist, you can call a specialist. But when you're out on a boat, your resources are limited. So it's very important that you have good engineers, good engineering skills, and we teach you all of that. One of the things we're very proud about is that our program, actually in the picture you can see, that is from one of our classes, and they are our students, and then the instructor is there with the orange gloves. We're a very hands-on program. So we have a big diesel lab with a bunch of engines. We have a number of boats that we work on, that we practice on. So very Well, I was going to say very little of our time. About half of our time is in the classroom, making sure you guys know what you're talking about, know what's going on. And then the other half of the time is actually out on the boats, putting all of that into practice and making sure you have the sort of muscle memory and the skills and practical experience to put it into practice when you guys graduate and go out into the industry. On the other side, we have the marine deck technology, which, like I mentioned before, is navigation, is line handling, cargo operations, uh, making sure the engineers make sure the boat moves when we tell it to move. The deckies make sure it gets where we're trying to get it to go. So they're, all of the people on deck, when you go onto the Washington State ferries, they're the ones loading the cars on, making sure the boat is balanced, making sure, we don't put all the cars on one side and we're listing as we're trying to get from one point to another. And then they go up to the bridge and they basically drive the boat. They steer the boat from port to port. So through our program, an ordinary seaman, like I said, is sort of the entry point. Through our program, we'll get you to be an able-bodied seaman. So you're no longer ordinary. You have more skills. You know how to operate all of the equipment. You may not have all of the skills needed to be the captain, but over time, you're on track to get there. So you'll graduate on the deck program with an able seaman, and then on through the program, you'll be able to upgrade to get what's called your mate's license. So then you are another step closer to being the captain, or the master is another name for the captain. So given enough time, you can make your way all the way up to, you are in charge of the entire ship and you are responsible for the whole thing. So you're running the show. On the engineering side, you'll start as, again, an ordinary seaman. Anybody off the street can be an ordinary seaman. And through our QMed program, QMed standing for Qualified Member of the Engineering Department, learn how to be an engineer, learn how to take stuff apart, kind of get into an engineering mindset and have an idea of like, what equipment should I expect? How should this be running? And you'll be able to identify like, oh, that doesn't quite sound right. Just by, listening to the engine and kind of, oh, something's not quite right, but maybe I can troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on. And then again, you can carry on through time or through another educational program and get your license as a third assistant engineer, and then work your way up to the chief engineer, where you're in charge of the entire engine room. You have a crew of people underneath you who are, keeping track of everything, making sure everything's running properly. As the chief engineer, you still get dirty a little bit, but you're not really getting dirty as much as you are as the QMed. You can say, that needs to be cleaned, so you go clean it. I'm gonna tell you how to clean it because I'm the chief engineer and I know what I'm talking about. So you get a little bit of you get to be a little cleaner through the day.
What does the H word mean? I don't know how to say it.
The Hawsepipe. So Hawsepipe, the Hawsepipe is the part of a ship that actually the anchor chain comes down through. But it's I'm actually glad you asked. That is a piece of nautical terminology that most people wouldn't know. But if you go up the Hawsepipe, you can either go through like I have here, an academic program to get your license, or you can what they call go up the Hawsepipe, where you've just put in the time and it's sort of a school of hard knocks to get to the point where you're like, no, I know enough, I have enough experience to take the test and get my license and do this quote the hard way. It's not, you are working that entire time and you're getting paid and there's nothing wrong with that. Or you can pay to go through an academic program and get your license that way. It's just two different ways you can continue through your career. As with most careers, you can either learn and get the experience, or you can go to school for it and get knowledge that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. So our faculty, all of our faculty have hands-on experience. They all have their license. They are experienced mariners. I sailed for 6 years before I started teaching. So we've all spent time on a number of different vessels. Most of my experience was going deep sea. So I was on much bigger ships, taking cargo over to Japan and South Korea and doing longer sort of cross-Pacific routes. Some of our faculty work for the Washington State Ferries. A lot of them work for the Victoria Clipper, going up to Victoria, working on tugs, working on, passenger ships, all kinds of experience. We have a very wide variety of experience. So no matter sort of where in the maritime industry you see yourself going, where if you want to work deep sea like I did, or no, I just want to stay close to home and work on the Washington State ferries. We have instructors who have done what you want to do and can help you get there. And they know sort of, well, this is the guy you're going to want to talk to. These are the things that are going to be important for that job. And so we try to give you good advice, and we know it's good advice because it comes from our experience. We're all experienced mariners, and we're there to help you guys succeed. While you're here, pretty much everybody, regardless of whether you're on the engine side or the deck side, you'll learn basic seamanship, knot tying, watch standing, vessel construction. So you'll learn what the hawsepipe is. You'll learn all of the terminology, how to safely use tools, both regular tools, hammers, screwdrivers, and special tools, torque wrenches, all of that stuff. We'll cover everything. Maritime safety, and survival craft. Survival craft and a lot of the basic training is very important because, like I said, if you're on a ship and something goes wrong, you guys are the only ones on the ship. You have to know how to respond, how to take care of things, how to, make sure that an emergency doesn't become worse. And so from here, it really is an incredible rate of return for the investment as our program. So our program is a 1-year program. We have 3/4 of academic instruction in the classroom working on our vessels. And then after that, we send you out for an internship over the summer, which is usually about 3 months. So after that, you graduate, you have your credential, and then you can go get a job in the industry. Our internships, I would say about 90% of the time, you end up with a job offer on graduation. You go out, you do your internship, and as long as you're there to work, utilizing the knowledge that we've given you, all of our students in the past have been offered jobs on graduation. And in addition to that, as a deckhand, as I have on the slide here, as a deckhand, your average salary is $48,000 a year, and you're working 28 days on, 28 days off. So you have almost a full month of vacation for each month that you work. So even if you're not working on a boat is fine, it's a job, you have plenty of time for hobbies, visiting people, traveling. There's so much flexibility that this job can offer you. In the engineering side, we get paid a little bit more on the engineering side, but we're also down in the ship, so we don't get the fresh air and the view that the deckies get. So we get paid a little bit more, but again, generally 28 days on, 28 days off, depending on the route. Like I said, I went overseas. I can't switch out off the ship halfway through the trip. So usually I end up spending about 3 months on, 3 months off. And then if you work a little closer to home, if you're working on the Washington State ferries, they actually work week on, week off. But regardless of how far you're going or what trip you're on, usually you'll get about the same amount of vacation as you spend on board the ship, while also making a significant salary. And all of that for 1 year of school. Yeah, and that's all I've got. So we're the Seattle Maritime Academy. We're located up in Ballard. Our dean, Dale Bateman, former Coast Guard, experience all over the place. And Barbara works at our front desk. If you give her a call, she will be able to answer any questions you have. We also do campus tours. So the second Tuesday of every month, we do a campus tour. I believe it starts at 6 o'clock. There's more information on our website. We would love to see you come and visit, and hopefully we'll get you out on the water. Do you have any other questions for me?
Yeah, thank you so much. Can I ask, do you happen to know if the summer internship, do they get paid, or is it just a they're just working and
It depends on the company the internship is with. Um, most most companies, because you're working on a ship, like the working environment ends up being a little differently, as opposed to, well, I'm an intern and I'm just working in an office. So most companies will actually hire you as, like I said, the OS is sort of that lowest level. They'll just hire you as an OS.
oh,
And then once you graduate and you get your credential, they'll say, "Great, you have your credential. We'll immediately we'll bump you up to the next level now that you have your credential and you've already filled out your paperwork. You're already a part of the company because we've hired you. Like let's get you back out on a ship. Let's get things going." So the internship really does it gets you out into the industry.
oh, thank you. Do the students have somebody that they can work with to find an internship?
We do all the legwork for you. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a list of people that our dean, contacts. And so by the time the internship comes around, he'll have a list of, all right, we have 10 slots at the Washington State Ferries. We have a couple slots with this company, a couple slots with this company, and we'll work with you to hopefully get you an internship somewhere that you're interested in.
Okay.
So we do a lot of work with them to try to make sure that their internship is something that they're interested in.
Got it. So when
Yeah,
students want to be a part of the Seattle Maritime Academy, do they only start in the fall quarter?
we do. We only start in the
Okay.
fall quarter because our program is administered by the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is the governing body who gives us our license and our credential.
Yeah,
We have to have a lockstep program to kind of make sure you hit all of these beats that the Coast Guard wants us to hit. Um,
sure.
so we do only start in the fall, but we started accepting applications in beginning of spring quarter. So pretty soon here we'll be opening up applications for the 2023-24 school year.
Okay. And then when the students take their 3 quarters of class, are the classes typically during the day or like full
Yeah,
time and
yeah, it'll be
yeah,
a full-time program.
right.
A lot of our students have sort of part-time jobs on top of that, but working an 8-hour day, 7 days a week, or 7 days a week. Hopefully, you're not working 7 days a week. But like a 40-hour work week is difficult to manage on top of the class load, because there is a lot of material that we're trying to cover, and it is a new industry that we're trying to get you into.
Yeah. Don't mean to grill, just a couple more questions. I
No,
really
not at all.
appreciate
I'm
it.
happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, I help students connect to resources, and so I get really excited when students express interest in the Maritime Academy. And then a lot of times I'll point out like workforce and how it's professional technical, right? So they
Yeah,
might
yeah.
qualify for that, and that's really cool. And then to say if students, sorry, back up the train. Uh, I heard, and it might have been even from Barbara, that we were talking about like types of people that get really do really well in maritime. And one of the things that I learned was that if a person is okay not having the same routine all the time, or they don't mind if stuff gets moved, or like if they were ever a foster child and things aren't always the same all the time. Do you agree? What do you think about that?
I personally, I think the maritime industry, gives people a lot of flexibility, um, both with the amount of money that you make in the industry and the amount of time off that you have. It is very different. About half of our students are usually right out of high school where they're like, well, I don't really know what to do. And, working in an office doesn't really appeal to me. And then the other half of our students are uh, older who are like, look, I've worked in an office, I've had a career, and I got to get away from my desk. I want to get out. I want to do something, work with my hands, kind of try something new. And both groups of people do incredibly well.
Yeah.
Um, it can be a very difficult job. You are working with your hands. You are away from home a lot. But if those are things that appeal to you, that, I don't have a whole lot of home stability anyway, then yeah, I think you would excel. I know a lot of people who I've worked with out on ships that, you know, they they love it being out on a ship. Like that's what they do. They don't really, for whatever reason, never really meshed with the whole like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to my job and then I'm gonna come home and then I'm gonna make myself dinner and go to bed and then I'm gonna wake up in the morning and I'm gonna do the whole thing again." It's like, well, I don't know. That day-to-day grind doesn't really appeal to me. So I'm gonna go out on a ship for a month, however long it is, and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna, get through it, and that's all I got to worry about. And then when I get home, I'm home. I don't got to worry about work. I don't have to worry about like my work-life balance. Um, Somebody wants to go do something on a Tuesday night, I'm free. I don't have to worry about work in the morning. And then, a month later, I go back out on my boat and then I'm just doing that. And so, it's not for everybody, but for some people, it is perfect. It is exactly what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And silly question, do you have to be able to swim?
Not necessarily. Yes, that's not nearly as silly a question as you might think. Um, we do have a basic training course. Technically, we don't teach it. We have our students go through it over spring break. And there's a local company who specifically teaches the basic training, which includes the firefighting and survival and all of that sort of stuff. But part of that is just being able to float. So being comfortable in the water, you don't need to know how to swim, but being able to float and knowing how to use all of the safety equipment, like how to properly put on a life vest. There's a bunch of other sort of safety equipment that's a little more technical than a life vest, but making sure you know how to use all of that so that if you do have to abandon ship or there is an emergency, you don't have to know how to swim. You just have to know how to put on this equipment that'll help you float, keep your head above the water, and wait for someone to rescue you. So no, you don't have to know how to swim. I would argue that it helps, but just as long as you feel comfortable in the water, that's all we need.
Very cool. Thank you so much for the information. I really learned a lot. I can't wait to, put students into contact with your department and everything. And
Yeah.
I'm so silly because when I first heard the term, I'm not from here, I'm from Texas. And when I first
Oh,
heard the
okay.
term marine deck technology, I thought it meant like the actual dock or something. I didn't understand, I was like, oh my goodness. But oh, and then when they do enter the program or they're like getting into the program, is there like a physical exam or anything? Like, do you have to
Uh,
be, you
there
know?
is not. So we don't administer a physical exam.
Yeah.
But in order to get your sort of your entry level OS, the Coast Guard has a physical exam that they would have to go through. So there are some physical requirements, but it's not something that we administer. It's something that the Coast Guard administers.
Okay.
Um, and so there is a certain amount of um, sort of mobility requirements. One of the things that ends up throwing off a lot of people is if you're colorblind,
Mm.
you can't work on the deck side because a lot of ships, they have the lights on the ships are there to let other ships know where they're at and how they're moving. And red and green are we have green lights on the port side of the ship and red lights on the starboard side so that other ships know, well, I know I'm looking at which side of the ship I'm looking at. And if you can't tell the difference between red and green lights, like that can cause issues. So there are some physical requirements, but please send students to us and we'll help them figure that out and figure out if our program is right for them.
Great. Well, I hope a lot of people watch the video, and that's all I got. Thanks again, Thomas. I really
All right.
enjoyed meeting you and learning.
Thank you. I'm glad I had someone to talk to.
You bet. Well, take care. Thank you.
All right. You too. Thanks.